Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 8 through 12, among various other biblical passages, commands us to heed the rulings of the great court established by Moses. Their rulings are preserved in the Talmudic texts. Among their rulings, we find the obligation to prostrate at times of prayer. We can find this in the Talmud, in Masechet Berakhoth, page 28, the second side, and page 34, the second side of the page. Also in Masechet Megilla, the 22nd page, the second side of the page. We find this law codified in the Mishneh Torah, in Hilkhoth Tefilah, the Laws of Prayer, chapter 5. Chapter 5 begins by stating that there are 8 matters which the one praying needs to be careful about to do them. And if he was pressured or forced, or if he transgressed and didn't do them, they do not prevent one from praying. And these are they: to be standing, to be facing in the direction of the temple, preparation of the body, fixing one's clothes, preparation of the place, controlling of the voice, bending down, and prostration. In the 14th and 15th law of this same chapter, the method of prostrating is explained. What does prostration imply? After one lifts his head from the 5th act of bending down in the central prayer, he should then sit on the ground and fall upon his face on the ground, and supplicate all the supplications that he desires. Qidah refers to merely bowing down onto one's nose. Prostration, hishtahawaya, this consists of the hands and feet being stretched out until one is flat on his face on the ground. The 16th law of this chapter explains that as an individual does nafilat panim, falling down faceward, after the prayer, there is one who does qidah, and there is one who does prostration, hishtahawaya. Remember that the first law in this chapter referred to prostration, hishtahawaya, as one of the 8 matters which a person praying should be careful to do. Now, it is a common misunderstanding that only a person who is as righteous as Yehoshua, Joshua, is allowed to prostrate. Actually, this is only the case with what is called an Adom Hashuv, an important person. The 16th law clarifies, and it is forbidden to do prostration upon stones except for in the temple, as we explained in the laws regarding idolatry. And an important person is not permitted to fall upon his face, except if he knows within himself that he is a righteous person as Yehoshua, Joshua. Rather, he should tilt his face a little and not press it onto the ground. And it is permitted for a person to pray the prayer in one place and to fall upon his face in another. So now it should be clear that the restriction on prostrating applies to the important person, not to the average individual. The regular Joe is still obligated by Talmudic law to prostrate at the end of the central prayer. And even the important person is still obligated to fall to the ground. He is simply to tilt his face a bit so as not to press it into the ground. And this, if he does not know himself to be a righteous person as Yehoshua. In Hilkhoth Tefilah, the laws regarding idolatry, in chapter 6, in the 10th through the 13th law, or the 6th through the 8th law, depending upon which version of the text you're using, we find that we are prohibited against prostrating on stone. And likewise, the figured stone mentioned in the Torah, even if one prostrates upon it to the Lord, he, the Israelite, is to be flogged, as it is stated, "And the figured stone you shall not place in your lands, to prostrate upon it." Leviticus chapter 26, verse 1. This is because this was the manner of idolatry, to place a stone before the idolatry, to prostrate upon it. And therefore we do not do likewise to the Lord. And he, the Israelite, is not to be flogged for violation of this commandment, until he stretched out his arms and legs upon the stone, with his entire body spread out flat upon the stone, for this is the type of prostration mentioned in the Torah. This is the case in all lands, except for in the temple, where it is permitted to prostrate to the Lord upon stones. As it is stated, "You shall not place in your lands to prostrate to the Lord." Leviticus chapter 26, verse 1. In your lands, you are not to prostrate on stones, but you do prostrate on hewn stones in the temple, which is not, quote, your land. And due to this, all Israel is of the practice to lay out mats in the synagogues wherein there are stone floors, or types of straw and the like, so as to separate between their faces and the stone. And if one doesn't find something with which to separate between himself and the stone, he goes to another place and prostrates, or he bows upon his side and tilts, in order that his face not press on the stone. One who prostrates to the Lord upon hewn stones, without spreading out his arms and legs, he is not to be flogged, but he is to be whipped the whippings of rebelliousness. But with regard to idolatry, whether he is one who prostrates with his arms and legs spread out, or whether he is one who prostrated without spreading out his arms and legs, from the moment that he presses his face on the ground to the idolatry, he is liable for the death sentence. This law regarding prostrating to idolatry is also true for the nations, in the context of the laws of Noah. However, the method in which the death sentence is carried out is different depending on whether it is an Israelite or whether it is one from among the nations who did the act of idolatry. In our days, there are not many Jews who still kneel and bow during regular daily prayer. A noticeable number of Orthodox Ashkenazi Jews do bow to the ground during Yom HaKippurim and Rosh Hashanah, but not at the places wherein the Talmud instructs to do so. Most Jews in modern times are not even aware that it is the historical practice of the Jewish people, based upon biblical and Talmudic teaching, to kneel and prostrate during regular daily prayer. Therefore, be prepared that if you kneel or prostrate in most synagogues, you are sure to get reactions of surprise. They may or may not be encouraging reactions. Nonetheless, so long as you are still able to concentrate properly while praying, and are willing to endure the possible consequences of bowing and prostrating in public, I only encourage you to do so. It is a shame to fear men more than the Most High. How can bowing or prostrating be a sign of arrogance, especially when you know people may well look upon you negatively for doing so? Rather, it is intended as an expression of and a catalyst for greater humility and surrender to the Almighty. Are we to be ashamed for submitting to His will rather than denying what we know? Oz le'evesh, behabitli al kol misluthecho. Then I will not be ashamed, when I have regard unto all your commandments. Psalm chapter 119, verse 6.